Hi investigators, Mike Evans from the Australian Security Academy with this week's private, corporate and government investigator news as it happened week ending 27th of November 2020. Again, another very busy week, and I'm coming to you in simulation from the defence facility at Pine Gap, and I'll get to that in the second part of our program when we talk about ASIO, why we're doing that today. Now, we really have a big lineup of things to get through today. We're going to start off with everybody's favourite one, this one. So, what's been happening in relation to surveillance in Australia this week? Well, there's been a little bit on, and it started all down in Victoria with Mark Bond and the team at the Environmental Protection Agency have caught out a person who's been illegally dumping stuff and ended up in court and was fined $80,000. Now, this has been a very big, serious operation in government surveillance, and what they had to do was follow this person to see what they were dumping and what they were collecting at this site. And you can read all about the Diggers Rest dumping if you Google it on Google. So here's the actual drone video footage that the EPA investigators took of what was happening at this site where these things were being illegally dumped. And you can see that drone footage. The Environmental Protection Agency used drones in their work to gather evidence against people who dump waste. And they've got a great team of drone operators down there. Hi, guys and girls down there in the Environmental Protection Agency in Victoria. You did a great job on that one. So that's what's been happening down there. In government investigation, they do use drones, so do civil investigators, so do corporate investigators. So keep that in mind. They use drones for surveillance. They don't use it for physical injury surveillance, but they use it for all types of other different kinds of surveillance. Now, one that came out in Queensland this week, 3 Gold Coast lawyers and a Brisbane lawyer have been charged with fraud over financial issues, improprieties with getting loans and stuff like that. So that's an interesting one to watch. There's 4 of them all together, and we'll follow that. It's Operation Mercury, and that happened in the Gold Coast and in Brisbane this week. Now, similarly, only 2 years ago, there was a bunch of lawyers that started doing money laundering fraud, and in surveillance, they got warned by the magistrate when she bailed them that they're going to be put under surveillance. How good's that? Can I look at that again? What did the magistrate say? The magistrate, Penelope Hayes, said the criminal lawyer would be likely to be put under covert surveillance once released, and she was comfortable with granting that criminal lawyer bail. So any street sweepers, pizza delivery people, nurses or milk delivery person could be having that lawyer under surveillance. So what do the government and civil investigate? How do they look at it when the magistrate says, well, you're going to be put under surveillance, mate? So they've given the person a warning. Well, how do they see that? They see it just like this. That's what they say. This is what they look at. They go, yep, okay, the magistrate's just warned this criminal lawyer about being under surveillance. We accept that challenge because that's what we do. It just makes it more interesting as far as they're concerned. So that's no great loss as far as a professional surveillance person who doesn't do relationship surveillance goes. Now, so that was an interesting one with surveillance and Gold Coast and Brisbane lawyers. So there's a lot been happening in that. It's great work if you can get it, people. Really, really enjoyable stuff. And I used to do a heck of a lot of it. Still do a little bit today, but it's not my world today. Now, ASIO have come out this week And basically, they've said that if you're going to apply for a job like this, which is a really great job, it's a security operations manager of Thales, which is for the Defence Department for Australia. If you're going to have one of these jobs, at ASIO, we're warning you, you've got to be very careful with your use of social media. Now, you'd think that'd be common sense that you've just got a job with a Defence Force contractor that you would do that. But let's have a look at what ASIO have been saying, and they even made a little video about it. So ASIO have warned that there are hostile intelligence services using social media such as LinkedIn to try and link with people who have important defence positions in Australia. Now, it's not uncommon for those people to be on LinkedIn, but ASIO are warning about, look, know who you link with and know what you do, because trained foreign spies, obviously from Fiji and New Zealand, are trying to get in touch with people in those positions and elicit information out of them. So ASIO made this little video warning people, if you're in a defence position or a supplier to government, don't go giving away secrets to people you don't know on basically on LinkedIn and things like that. So that's come out this week. ASIO sent that warning out there. Now, I thought that's quite good. So I thought, wouldn't it be great if you could actually, in your social media, have a spy contact you and try and get information out of you just to find out how it all works. Now, I don't know what we'll do, but I thought I'd change my marketing. So I've got my background here where I'm at the defence facility at Pine Gap. Hi, everyone on LinkedIn who's a spy in Fiji and New Zealand. I'm going to change my LinkedIn profile to this. I'm going to be Michael Evans, now coordinator of the 5 Eyes Defence and 10 Years Offence, Pine Gap, Woomera, Maralinga, Vice President of Planning Stage 3 of the glorious Imperial Reunification of Flinders Island by force if required. Now, that should hit it with a few overseas spies who want to get top secrets out of me. So I'll keep you posted in the future to see if anything happens with that. So that's what's happened in relation to that. I'll just play a little bit of that video again. It's real. ASIO put it up. They're saying don't advertise when you go on LinkedIn. So people, that's the first 2 parts of the program. I'd like to welcome our special guest today, Casey. Hi, Casey. How are you going?
Hi, Mike. I'm well, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
That's great. It was really good of you to agree to coming in because, Casey, one of the big things we get asked about every week here at the Australian Security Academy by our graduates is, how do I market my investigation agency? I've got 3 or 4 investigators. I've got some lawyers on board, that sort of thing. What should I be doing to market my investigation agency in 2020 moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So digital marketing is even more pertinent this year because everybody is going online and taking their businesses online, and people are catching up, whereas before they were falling behind. And now we have COVID, everybody is going online. So a couple of the things that you can do to really stand out with your digital marketing is to have a website that is worded correctly, really easy to use, and just says exactly what you do. So don't go for fancy, weird brand names that don't have anything to do with what you do. Try and keep it concise. And if you're using your last names, for example, have a subheading that says investigation specialist, so people go, okay, that's what you do. Don't confuse people online. You have a very short attention span. So the sooner people can go, that's what you do, the better. And number 2, for some advice would definitely be to do video. Video is huge. So you probably have potential clients calling you all the time and asking you the same questions over and over again. So turn your frequently asked questions into a video and post it online. People love watching videos. We're constantly on our phones watching videos, standing in line at the coffee club or Starbucks and watching a video, and people will watch your videos they're much more likely to watch your videos than to read a long document. So FAQs are perfect for that, and it will help with your SEO as well.
That's great, Casey. Do Google AdWords still work in 2020?
Oh, absolutely. So, but you don't have to go spending massive amounts of money. And there are so many. Google has a short course themselves that they've put out, which is free, which you can do yourself just to look at how you can do it yourself. There's plenty of Google AdWords specialists out there that freelance. But yes, it definitely works.
Okay. And Casey, where it says on the Facebook business page, you can boost this ad for $10 and get 360 more views, is that good value?
No. I went to a big summit at the beginning of the year, and Facebook have been calling it the idiot tax for a very long time. So please do not boost your posts. Create an ad campaign with Facebook. Facebook ads work phenomenally well as well, just for any industry. I just haven't seen anyone not get a level of success from Facebook ads. But don't boost your post. Create a campaign, specifically target who you want, tinker with it, have a little play with it, or you can hire professionals to do it for you. But there's so much information out there from both Facebook and Google that, yeah, if you want to do it yourself, tinker with it over a weekend.
Okay, when I went to one of your courses, Casey, and you made me design my perfect target market person, right? I was fighting against it, and then I did it, and then I started implementing it, and it worked. That's the sort of thing that you help people with in what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So rather than just kind of taking a machine gun, as we call it, and shooting a crowd, you just have a sniper rifle and are picking off the people that you want. So, and you have to know who you're targeting. So you have to know specifically what you do. So if you do a specific type of investigations, you need to know who is possibly going to hire your services, and then you need to target them, as opposed to just go, let's just target everybody between the ages of 25 and 65, both men and women, in all the areas, rural and the city, and see how we go. So that's a little bit of a waste of money. Google and Facebook, their AI is pretty amazing with helping you narrow all of that stuff down. But if you have a clear picture in your mind as well, it really helps you, because it also allows you to speak to those people in a way that they want to be spoken to. If your demographic speaks in a certain way, uses certain lingo, understands certain things that you know that they understand, you can speak to them on their level and in their way. And that makes such a huge difference when it comes to connection online.
Fantastic, Casey. And do I have to have a large budget? So should I be allocating $3,000 to a Facebook campaign or a digital Google AdWords campaign? What sort of area can I start in and expect some results, or maybe a few inquiries?
Yeah, absolutely. So you do not need a huge huge marketing budget. I suggest you set a budget so you know how much you're spending. But to begin with, usually I suggest have a couple of $100 so you can really hammer it home and see what you can tinker with and what's working and what's not. And then after that, you can tone it back to $10 a week or $20 a week if you're really slow, or tone it off when you get too many. I have clients that all the time they're just getting too many inquiries, so they have to switch their ads off. When they start to feel it dropping back down, they turn them back on, and it works really well.
Yeah, look, that's my experience after this show. Every Friday for the next 3 hours, I'll be on the phone, and the phone will be ringing, and people just can't get through. So it certainly works. And I know your system works. And if people want to get in touch with you, Casey, in relation to that, they can contact me at the Australian Security Academy, and I'll pass that on. You happy with that?
Absolutely.
Okay, no worries. Well, Casey, look, thanks for dropping by on very short notice. I'm going to give people some examples of places out there at the moment that are doing really good marketing. So I really appreciate you coming in, and we'll see you next time if we can get you back. Okay?
Great. Thanks, Mike, and good work on the videos.
Thanks, Casey. Good on you. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so let's have a look at some organisations who do investigations and risk management that are doing it really well. Now, this is one of my favourites. I've been watching these guys for a long time, and it was purely by accident that I discovered them, because one day on YouTube they had a a little video, a promotional video. It was like a very expensive production done in relation to one of their frauds that they did. Now, the organisation is called Dexton Hill. Now, Dexton Hill, I'll just get rid of that. Dexton Hill are prolifically marketing themselves in different ways. So they've got a YouTube channel which showcases some of their work. Andrew down there writes articles on LinkedIn. Now, he's written this one about discovery obligations and privileges against exposure to penalties and self-incrimination for fraud investigators and fraud lawyers. Now, what that does, it raises his profile on LinkedIn, and people who are watching it, who are scrolling through LinkedIn, might be interested in that, and they'll click on it and have a look. And then they might Google Dexton Hill, for example, and that really professional video will come up, and bang, suddenly Dexton Hill have got a client for a little effort, just writing an article on LinkedIn. And this is what the article looks like. There it is. You click on the link on LinkedIn and it takes you to this one, and Andrew's works there, and it explains all about the discovery obligations. And this is the stuff clients of his, they want to know, because it's important to them. So he's putting himself out there, for 25 minutes of work a week on LinkedIn, backed by a few YouTube articles. They are sponsors of an industry association quite frequently at Dexton Hill. And look, they're really great people. You sit down with them at breakfast, they're not up themselves, they talk to you, and it's just like you're the next door neighbour. They are a really friendly, really great team there, and they do their marketing really well. Now, these are people who are ex-coppers and really big time lawyers and barristers. Now, you'd think that they wouldn't be able to do that. Well, sometimes people just to make that transition to civil really easily, and when they go into the civil investigation arena, they can't come on as too policey or too lawyery. It's just going to scare people away. So they make a big effort. They put those videos on YouTube, they write the articles on LinkedIn, they speak at events, and they're members of industry associations. So one of the big things I like to do is I like to copy success. And if you Google Dexton Hill and copy them, you'll get an idea of that as well. Now, another bloke that does it in his organisation, they're prolific at it, is this guy, and he did it yesterday. Where is he? Oh, I've lost him. Here we go. This is Paul York speaking yesterday at the Ashford's webinar on fraud prevention. Now, Paul's on the left waving that pencil around, and he's got some slides that he's talking everyone through. But Paul is the Chief Executive Officer of SureFact. Now, he goes out and he speaks at events, and he goes out and he markets his business to potential clients. And basically, him and his partner, Pat Henderson, they go and knock on doors and introduce themselves to clients, and they're not afraid to market their business. Now, they have an investigation business, they have a risk management business, they have a marketing business, and they have a drone business. Now, all of these things have evolved through what they've been doing over the last 7 years at SureFact, and they do it quite well by pushing themselves and marketing themselves. Pat Henderson tells a great story how they went to go and speak to a criminal defence lawyer, and he gave them their business card, and it said his name and address and contact details on the front, and on the back it said reasonable doubt for a reasonable price. Now, that's marketing. That's really, really good marketing, and see a lawyer with a sense of humour. Criminal defence ones. So, look, SureFact do it really well too. So you saw Paul in action. He's not too big to go out and do that. Now, he is an instructor for the Australian Security Academy. So both Paul and Pat go to Australian Security Academy learning events, and they teach in them. And they also come on this program and they talk about issues and events here. So they are talking to people in the industry. Now, you might think that I'm an idiot and only beginners watch this program, but I tell you what, the feedback I get every week, what they say to me in some of the biggest investigation agencies in Australia, they are watching this, whether they're watching it live or they're watching the replay, they are watching this program to see what their competitors are doing. They are watching this program because they just might get a little edge with a development or a trend. So that's what you do. You keep those trends and developments on your radar. Now, I have another program I do, another live stream which I do. The day before yesterday, Jason Fullerton, who does that live stream, gave the biggest hint to what's coming up in 2021 if you have an investigation agency or a security risk management firm. And here it is.
Of relevance to the people that are watching today, just something that I have been hearing in recent times, which is going to be a big contributor to security risks throughout the whole country, is that I had heard that the police are currently concerned about, and you would think, why would they be concerned about this? But there is obviously a legacy for this type of thing existing, is that there is a shortage of cocaine and methamphetamine in Australia at the moment. And normally what happens is when there is shortage in supply, the prices go up, we've got a diminishing economy, and police are commencing to consult about what influence that they think that that's going to have on crime, because there would be an expectation that if the prices of drugs are going up and if the economy is diminishing, that the only way in which people are going to be able to fund their habits is going to be this increase in crime. So I think it's something that all risk managers should be trying to monitor at the moment as far as crime trends go. Have discussions with your local police to see if that trend is in fact accurate in your areas that your companies are. But I think it might be a big driver as far as crime goes. So I guess that's one of the legacies of shutting down your borders. It appears perhaps drugs of this kind and that we're getting into the country a hell of a lot easier than what we were perhaps implying. But, one of the legacies of a shortage of drugs is normally higher crime rates. Keep a lookout for it and definitely make it a consideration in your current risk management plans.
Well, you just heard it straight from the horse's mouth. Now, Jason is a security risk consultant and an investigator and a governance and compliance professional. He has his own business, JSF Consulting in New South Wales, and he's heard on the radar that the price of drugs is going up because people can't get on planes anymore and pretend they're going to be a student in Australia and bring drugs over for cartels because the cartels are going to kidnap their family if they don't, or they're going to pay their family, some money if they do, or whatever. So those couriers, they've been eliminated and that's not coming in. So the price of heroin and cocaine is going up. Therefore, people who are addicted to that sort of, I'm not talking recreational users, I'm talking people with heavy addictions, right? Because we want addictions in our role because that keeps us employed. So we want gambling, drug addictions, that sort of thing, because that's what drives people to commit offences. So it's likely that there's going to be more crime. Now, you're not going to go today and rob the local general store because you're not going to get a lot of cash. It's all, done by credit card these days or FPOS. So you've got to be creative in how you're going to scam people and do things like that. One of the trends that our surveillance people have been getting is they've been engaged to go and see if puppies that people have bought online really exist, or that if they're going to buy online really exist, because this scam, only this week was reported by the ABC, has gone up fourfold in the last year. So some people wanting to make a bit of extra money is advertising these dogs for $5,000, $4,000, whatever, designer dogs, and people are paying for it sight unseen, and they don't exist. And sometimes they're using fake Facebook pages of real breeders, and it's causing all sorts of problems. So if you are a surveillance investigator, you can go and advertise your services in your local area or on your neighbourhood thing that, for this amount, you'll drive out to Whoop Whoop and you will check that that dog exists before the person who's going to miss out on getting it if they don't pay for it today buys it. So the opportunities are coming up all over the place in relation to that. So this is a soft crime. If this person gets caught selling dogs that don't exist, well, what's going to happen to them? They're going to get a warning from the magistrate and, they might be fined $20 or something like that. So it's the soft stuff that the criminals who have to support a drug habit are going to look at first, because if you go and rob a bank, or something, kidnap people, you're going to go to jail for a long time. So they're going to focus on the soft stuff. So they'll use online stuff, and as soon as that's exposed, like I just did there, they've got to move on selling designer cats or something else, or they've got to move on to handbag snatchers or something else. So when the risk management goes in place to stop this sort of things, the crims have to move on to something different. So that's something that keep in mind. That's one of the opportunities that are out there. So you've seen Dexton Hill, you've seen Surefact. Now, both of those are in Victoria, which has been shut down for the last 8 months, and they are businesses that are doing very well. So keep that in mind, people. There are always opportunities, no matter what you work in, to build a business in any time. It doesn't matter if it's post-pandemic or whether it's pre-pandemic or whether it's thriving times. Investigation agencies and risk management firms, they thrive when times are a little bit tougher. That's what we exist for. When everything's going well, there's less business. When it's going to come to the crunch with this, Paul York said yesterday in that webinar that the first thing that goes when difficult economic times are the security. So that's when places become vulnerable. So it's a matter of just advertising your services. Like Casey said, get in touch with Casey and she can help you grow your business. It's not impossible, okay? And I like to benchmark success in other areas. That's why I'm a member of so many investigation industry associations, and I go to their meetings and I look at who's doing what, and I listen to the speakers, and I see what's trending. So that's really important with your marketing. I'll leave it there in relation to that, and we'll move on. Now, down in Victoria this week, the Licensing Regulation Division have sent out an email to all licence holders saying it's come to their attention that there are morons running around Victoria with security badges. So they and the security badges are very similar to the police badges. Now, this is for the 30 years I've been in this industry. It's always been one of the big issues. It's a matter of some people have to carry a badge because they haven't got a dick. So they carry these badges to pretend they're policemen. So the Victorian Police say that if an individual does it, it's 120 penalty units, possible fine. If an organisation does it, it's 600 penalty units. And either one of those could go to a jail for 2 years. So what's that mean? Here is what a penalty unit is in Victoria. It's 165.22. So if you add that up and you work that out, 120 is going to get you up around just under $20,000 if you go around flashing a fake police badge. If you have an investigation agency and you've got wankers from those hate groups of surveillance operatives in Australia, there's 2 of them, right? And they carry the badges and brag about how big their badge is and how little their dick is. But if you have an investigation agent who's got 3 of those running around, you are facing, right, with what they said back here, 600 penalty units. That is roughly $99,132 if you're the investigation firm that's employing those people and encouraging them to do it and not stopping them. So what's the big issue? This is what the badge looks like. It's got the 5-point star of the Victorian Police. It's got the crown of the Victorian Police. It's a complete copy of the Victorian Police's Freddy. That's what the police officers call it. So no matter how tempted you are, do not carry one of these badges to pretend that you're a police officer. The Victorian Police LRD have said if you've got one, you've got to go and hand it back into them. What are you here for, mate? Oh, I'm here for the badge amnesty, officer. All right. Ooh, really big offender you are. How much does that cost you? Oh, $10 on eBay. Anyway, if you want to see more about that, over in the chat section, in the comments section, there's a couple of links to my video on badges, and some 500 people this week alone have watched that video. about cowboy investigation badges. So I won't harp on that. But it did come down about 15 years ago. The LRD noticed that it was happening then, and they wrote to the guy who was doing it, and they said to him, this was before eBay and all that sort of stuff. They wrote to him and said to cease selling that badge. It's identical to the Victorian Police badge, so just you can't do that. Stop doing it. He wrote back to him and said, well, I'm not doing that. You change your badge. Go LRD. It's good to see you actually doing some enforcement on something that's serious. That's great stuff. In other news this week, business interruption claims have hit the news in insurance. So there's been a test case where a caravan park owner has claimed that because of COVID-19, he had to shut down and he's lost all this business because of COVID-19, he couldn't trade, so he wants compensation from his insurer, and his insurer, according to this test case, is now going to have to pay him for it. So this is really interesting. Business interruption claims are there, and they're based on gross profit. So what you've got to look at if you're going to investigate these things is you're going to have to look at basically the term in the policy. Is it 12 months? Or is it a special business interruption claim where they can get you up and back again in 6 months or something like that? They're going to look at your losses, your staff wages, but here your staff wages were covered by JobKeeper, so that's going to be cancelled. So that the investigator is not going to allow you to claim that, but they will look at what you've lost as far as your turnover and your gross profit. So those that have it and have been paid for it and it's in their policy, they've been paid for it. That's fine. There's no argument. But these people thought they had it in their policy, and some of them had like a 1912 reference to something, and that's allowed all these other people on this test case to get in on it. So as a result of that, business interruption claims are expected to sort of rise in relation to it. Now, lawyers would be out there encouraging it, and because they want the business from it. So that will be happening, but it's not going to end up being a lot of money because not everybody has that in the policy, and a lot of policy says if you want business interruption, you've got to have a separate policy. This one, we don't cover that, so you're not covered for it if it says we don't cover it. But if you're in one of those really old policies that's still got it in there, check your policy. You might be able to go and change that. I might be able to go and claim some of those business interruption costs. So that's an interesting week. Now, the Insurance Council of Australia, they will appeal that decision. They got more money than Bill Gates or Elon Musk. They got more money than both of them. They'll appeal that decision and they'll put political pressure on and all sorts of things, and they will have it overturned. But it's going to take months, and it's going to take them some very expensive lawyers to do it. So get in and get your claim in beforehand if that applies to you. So that's important, and it's happened this week, and that basically only came out this week. Now, I did say earlier, when you're marketing your business and you might be an ex-police officer or ex-soldier or something like that, you've got to really loosen up. You can't approach clients like a police officer, a barrister or a solicitor. And I also said, the government departments have to be really tight on their Thales and ASIO's video, that sort of thing. But this is a job vacancy that came out this week. And this is the Assistant Director of Investigations at the Australian Defence Department has, in a very friendly, very casual, very social manner, advertised for an Assistant Director of Investigations. Now, he's written that up there and it's been advertised on LinkedIn. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. This is their approach. They want to get the best person for their job. So this job came up this week. You can see any job vacancies that come up during the week on my Facebook job vacancies page. Join that page. Just do a Facebook search for Australian Private Investigator, Corporate and Government Investigation jobs, and people do that. And you can look at 3 years worth of jobs that are there. Now, I don't put every job vacancy up because I'm too busy. I'm teaching people investigations, risk management, government investigation, government security vetting. We've got 700 students studying with us, so I can't put up a lot, but I put examples examples of the jobs up there. Now, there might be a job in Adelaide, who cares? But if that job is for a federal government department, that's going to apply in Brisbane or Sydney at some time soon. So just look at the nature of how it's shifted. It's in policing, it's not us and them anymore. That assistant director's advertised job was done on LinkedIn. It was very friendly, very casual. So, loosen up, everybody. Don't, just realize that you're dealing in a world that's shifted away from, we're the police, that sort of thing, to, hey, we've got this job vacancy now, we'd like to talk to you. So that's how times have changed. There's nothing wrong with how it used to be. That's the way it was, but be prepared for that paradigm shift in the way people communicate and advertise in their marketing and that sort of thing. Now, this week, following previous reports from the Daily Mail, vegan beauty mogul has sued Airbnb for an unruly guest. Stealing Tiffany diamonds and Chanel and Gucci shoes and a $50 silver banana. We all got one of those down at the second-hand shop. So why they said vegan, they don't say carnivore criminal lawyer has committed fraud in Brisbane. They say vegan beauty mogul. Why? I don't know. It's the Daily Mail. But they say here, this is some months ago, that she's put in a claim against Airbnb for $253,000. Now, this is going back some time, and that's what happened in that news report. Now, it came out yesterday on the Gold Coast Bulletin that the same vegan beauty was going to face court on attempted fraud charge after allegedly making a false $1 million claim. That's 3 times over the value that it was previously reported at for insurers' goods she claimed was stolen from her main beach apartment. Now, she gives a list of the stuff. Tiffany clothing, a diamond ring worth $5,000, a diamond ring worth $11,000, some other jewelry. We always leave this when we go in and when we rent our house out on Airbnb. We leave these things lying around. 2 MacBook computers. Yeah, the guests help themselves to that. Blah, 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 blah. So this has been investigated. Her claim has been investigated by the Airbnb investigators. The police have got involved, and she's now been charged with fraud. So that's a pretty serious allegation. Now, I watched a fraud webinar yesterday, and they went through how to investigate fraud and what the red flags are to fraud and all that sort of thing. When you go to court and you actually watch a person that's being charged with fraud, it's an amazing experience. And if you ever do get the chance to go and see your local court where they handle that sort of thing, go and watch it, because what happens is the lawyer who's defending the person says to the person, all right, this is fraud. Okay, so basically it's a lie told to gain a benefit, chattel or advantage. And in this case, you didn't get anything because it's only attempted fraud. But the maximum penalty for fraud in Victoria is 20 years in prison. The maximum penalty for fraud in Queensland is 14 years in prison. Now, murderers get 14 years in prison. So the person who's charged with this is facing the same penalty as a murderer. Now, they get told this by their solicitor, their defence solicitor, because it's really important. When the magistrate says stand up for sentencing, they stand up next to their defence lawyer, and you can see them visibly shaking. Now, the reason for that is they know they are in deep trouble. What they did is a stupid idea to get, a little bit ahead financially is backfired, and now they're about to pay for it. And this magistrate's has their future in their hand. And if this magistrate's got a headache and had a bad day, she can send you to prison for 14 years. And there's not much you can do about it. But nobody gets 14 years. But you see these people actually visibly shaking. And then the magistrate will go, okay, well, look, I reviewed this case. It's lower end of the scale. It wasn't, sophisticated, blah, blah, blah. I've taken into account that your parents are here today to support you and that you work for these charities, whatever. And I will give you a fine of $600. You have to pay for the investigation. I won't record a conviction this time, but if you come back in my court again with the same thing, you'll be packing your toothbrush and going to jail. And they really spell it out quite seriously. And then they say something like, they love young blondes inside. They only do that to make sure you don't do it again, but that's what they say. And it's pretty scary when you see that actually said. So to a lady. And So that's what they do. So that's happened on the Gold Coast this week. So people, look, it's been a really, really busy week. I've gone 11 minutes over time to try and get everything in. One last thing I've got to explain to you. If you have been a victim of the pandemic and you've been negatively affected by it and you owe a lot of money, this is a job for a collections officer, and it's in Victoria. Now, in Victoria, you can leave jail 10 minutes ago and you can go and be a debt collector or a process server. That's the rules in Victoria. Doesn't matter who you are, what background you are, you can collect debts, repossess stuff and be a process server. It doesn't matter. There's no rules in Victoria, none, right? It's a crime, it's criminal. But you can go and do that kind of work. But in every other state and territory, you can't do that. If anyone contacts you and says, you owe money, I want you to pay it, okay, what you've got to do is you've got to be able to say to that person, unless you've got, unless you've got Certificate 3 in mercantile agents and you're a licensed debt collector, I don't have to speak to you. So demand to see it. Because what's happening around Australia at the moment, there's a lot of people from India basically those phone companies that are ringing up and asking people to pay debts. Now, they are not licensed debt collectors in Australia. Don't speak to them. Hang up on them. You don't have to tell them your name. You don't have to tell them your date of birth. They've got to show you that they have the right to collect that debt off you in every state and territory except Victoria. So keep that in mind. Okay, if you're dealing with an investigator who wants a statement taken off you in relation to what you saw at work in a bullying harassment claim, ask them to show you their private investigator license. If they haven't got one, don't speak to them. In Victoria, they won't let you do that if you work for the police, if you work for health, if you work in education. You have to speak to a licensed private investigator, not just someone that says, oh, you know, I'm a psychologist, so I can take statements off people and they can confess and make themselves guilty. It doesn't work like that. So demand to see ID when you're dealing with people in financial services or investigative services or security risk management around Australia. Been a great week, people. It's really been fun. It was great to have Casey in today and go through her things that she does. She's a digital marketing expert. She does all my digital marketing for me. There are quite a few investigation vacancies on my job page. I'll just run through some very quickly. ProCare, they're looking for investigators in Sydney, Canberra, and also Adelaide. So ProCare are doing that. The Director of Investigations and Compliance there in Canberra. There's the ProCare one. Sorry, my computer's running a bit slow. Down in Victoria, there's a administrative assistant role with Steve at OIS Global. So Stephen Scahill's got that job. That's an entry-level job into investigative services. If you'd like to enter the industry in Victoria, get in touch with Steve. You'll see that job on my Facebook job vacancies page. And Steve also, OIS Global, is looking for a factual investigator in relation to a whole lot of different things. Again, that's on my Facebook investigation page. So that's it. We've covered a lot of stuff today. We've covered surveillance, we've covered ASIO, we've covered marketing, we've looked at fraud, we've looked at your business development, our private investigator badges, the thing that won't go away. It just drives me nuts. I'm going out with my Koreans.
작전 종료. 전원 복귀할 것.
That's our mission complete this week. Just for one more time, listen to what Jason said and look at what you can expect coming up.
You know, of relevance to the people that are watching today, just something that I have been hearing in recent times, which is going to be a big contributor to security risks throughout the whole country, is that I had heard that the police are currently concerned about, and you would think, why would they be concerned about this? But there is obviously a legacy for this type of thing existing, is that there is a shortage of cocaine and methamphetamine in Australia at the moment. And normally what happens is when there is shortage in supply, the prices go up, we've got a diminishing economy, and police are commencing to consult about what influence that they think that that's going to have on crime, because it would.
So you just heard it just there from Jason. The police in New South Wales are expecting, because of the lack of supply of drugs and the price skyrocketing, the risks that the bikie gangs and the drug importers all go through, the price is going up. So people who are addicted to those sort of things are going to have to commit crimes to be able to afford their drugs. So keep that in mind when promoting your business. Who's vulnerable to that sort of thing? That's the people you market your business to. Thanks for watching, people. I'll see you next week. Don't forget, you can watch Tuesday No Risk and see Jason and I there, and we'll go out and I'll see you then. Thanks for watching. I'm Mike Evans from the Australian Security Academy.